Go. I got my blankie.
Get your old lady blanket.
Yes.
Put it on your
My
lap.
grandma. Ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, let's go for it. This is going to be our first episode of what we're going to call the Power Play podcast.
Power Play Podcast, yes.
Cool. Well, I guess our first episode, we should probably start by just saying who we are. Tell people a little bit about ourselves, our marriage, what makes us tick, what the point of this podcast is going to be, perhaps.
Right, we should go back to the beginning of our story, our fairy tale story.
So that would be in Northern California, suburbs of Sacramento, Roseville, Rockland area to be exact.
Yes.
And that's where we met. We're both from Rockland, California.
We both went to Rockland High School, but I graduated in 2006.
I graduated in 1998.
You were one of the first graduating classes, right?
Yeah, we were the second class to pass through the school. So my freshman year, there was only my group of freshmen, and then there was a group of sophomores, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then as it went, they just added more grades in as they went. So by the time I was a junior, there was all 4 grades in there.
Right. So I think when we first started dating, how we met is because I worked at a salon, a local salon in Rockland, and a local salon that was kind of well known in the area. There was 11 different locations.
It was a chain. It was a local chain.
It was a chain, but it was still a small business. There was one owner, and his mom opened the first original store, and that's the one that I worked at, was the original store. And then he grew up in the salon, and then he kept the legacy going after she had passed away. And I went to beauty school my junior year of high school. Well, I applied for beauty school my junior year of high school, and then I got accepted, and I started going January of my senior year of high school. And it was Citrus Heights Beauty College that I went to. And then I started working at a salon called Brockway. And then my receptionist that worked at that salon, we were really good friends. And she grew up in the same area that Ryan's family had a house and his brothers grew up in, right?
Yeah, but really it didn't have to do with that. We didn't meet really because of that necessarily. I think we just met, you could say, just because we had mutual friends on MySpace.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it boils down to. We had mutual friends on MySpace.
But our first date, we met with them and had fun with them. But anyways, go on. So
we met because we both had MySpace,
yeah.
And MySpace used to be nice enough to suggest people to you. So if you had common friends, they'd say, hey, here's someone you may know. And I saw this picture of this beautiful girl, and I thought, this is someone I need to know if I don't already. So I think I just reached out to you on there. We didn't meet through the family connections, or we didn't meet through our friends at first. We met first and started talking just through MySpace.
Right, but I felt more comfortable after our mutual friends that we had the connection of the people that I also knew, that you knew.
Sure, it makes it easier to hang out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she was the receptionist at the salon that I worked at, and so she knew of your family, so it was nice that I had someone to kind of like...
She could verify that we weren't like complete psychopaths.
Yes, because meeting someone on the internet is terrifying. Like, it's scary.
I thought it was hot.
Well, as a girl,
yeah.
I was like, okay, let's meet in a public place. And so we met at a local restaurant and had dinner there. And then...
Yeah, it was nice. It was a pretty straightforward date.
Yes.
It's a very datey date.
It was a very datey date.
And we went on a date, and it went pretty well. And then...
We dated for about 3 months. And then you were in a past arrangement, and
I had a previous relationship that I was still like, I hadn't really, I was still open to the possibility of like reconciliation with this previous person because that's just how I am, but that makes it pretty hard to date anyone new if you still have that hanging over your head. So I decided, for the betterment of myself, even if this doesn't work out, it's something I need to do. I have to cut myself free from this, anchor that's around my leg, which I see it as, I guess, if I'm in a relationship with someone, I'm going to want to put 100%.
First of all, if they feel like an anchor, that's not the right one for you.
Well, no, but it's, I guess the anchor wasn't maybe the person, but my own sense of obligation or responsibility or loyalty. I feel like until something is fully finished, I owe it to try or to give it my all or to see what could be if the relationship is what I claim it is, or you know what I'm saying? So that's why I thought to myself, look, I really feel strongly about this Jessica girl, but I have this shit hanging over my head that is making me feel like I'm vulnerable to not being able to give my all to a new person. I still have baggage, basically.
And I say there's like a 90-day grace period for everything. I feel like a 90-day grace period, you really sit with yourself and start to analyze like if this is for you, if there's right, if you have to close other chapters off in your life and go and handle that. And we were right around that 3-month mark. We hadn't even said I love you yet. At that point, it was very, and I was dating a lot. By that point, I was in the salon and was living on my own, very independent.
Hot babe in the city. Just doing it.
And I was engaged previously, and I had boyfriends, within 90 days grace period where I was like, it's not really working for me. And so I was content being alone, but I really enjoyed and knew Ryan was special. So when he presented that to me, I said, okay, block me and go figure it out. And he did.
That's basically what I had to do. I had to say, and that's not an easy thing to say to someone that you're dating. You have to say, look, I really like you and I can see a future with you, but unfortunately, as messed up as it sounds or whatever, I have to call the bluff of my ex and I have to go back to that relationship and say, if it's gonna work, make it work. If it's gonna happen, let's make it happen. And then if it don't happen, that's the kind of like final event that I would need to be able to say, this is like a last chance to make this work. If it's meant to work, let's make it work. I'm loyal like that, but then if this doesn't work, please never contact me again. Okay, it's over, and I need to
check mark done.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure. I guess lots of people break up like that, and it's fine or whatever, but. It was a long term. It was like I was with this person for years, 6 years, and then probably 3 more off and on or whatever. Still kind of clinging to that hope or whatever. So it really ended up being the best thing for me to do to call that bluff. But it just sucked that I couldn't do that while still in a relationship with you.
No, and I think I struggled with accepting it for a while until you just kept showing up honestly the way you said you were going to, and so that's what helped me move on from it. But you've had to do the effort and be continuous to show up.
Oh yeah,
it
was not an immediate. So beyond that, let's skip to the part after that where I called the bluff. The bluff was called. It was a bluff.
Took about 90 days.
This became clear. Yes, this became clear to me. And I was in a position where even if Jessica didn't want to have me back, at least I was free to pursue something real going forward, right? Mm-hmm. But I still wanted to be with Jessica. That was I knew that in my heart. So I ended up getting in touch with you through some family members.
It was about a year later, and some family members made an appointment at the salon that I was working at, and came and got their hair done.
I sent my spies infiltrate.
And they asked some questions, and I said, I've been dating this whole time. This whole year, I've been dating, but I was searching for Ryan in every person that I was dating. So they were falling flat, but I was still having fun. I mean, in Northern California, there's like Taco Tuesday and Karaoke Wednesday and Hookah Friday, you know? So like, I was still going out and having fun and working in a salon and rallying and having a good time. So it wasn't that, but I knew that he had to also choose me, and I was not waiting necessarily, but at the same time I was, because I was realizing I even dated a tall bald guy, okay, to see if it was that. And it wasn't that, okay.
Nope. I don't know. It's just something about me, man. I don't know what it is. You ain't
We're
never
made to
met
be.
another motherfucker like me. It's just the way it is, which is fine.
So then he showed up with flowers and a bottle of wine, and then I invited him back to my apartment, and then we've been inseparable.
Back to her place we went, baby. Yeah, and pretty much that was the start of, our marriage and our lifelong adventure here. So it was good. I was lucky. I was very fortunate in that I always say I have such bad luck in life's little things, but I have such good luck in the big things of life. So again, it worked out. This is a big thing in my life, and it worked out well. Luckily, she was open to ever speaking to me again and still wanted to, pursue things. So we did. We dated.
And then it was and Ryan worked office jobs, and then I've always worked in the salon, and then I had little side jobs here and there because California is expensive, and so living on your own independently, it's still expensive. And so I would serve. I was a server at an Italian restaurant. I worked at a frozen yogurt shop. My first job that I had technically was at Taco Bell. And so I've always worked customer service, but he worked an office job.
Tech support.
Tech support, yeah. And then about a year into us dating, we decided to move in with each other, and we got a small house in Roseville, California. And it was cute. It was a cute little house, and we were excited that we were in the house. And then we started talking about what was next, and I just knew I wanted children. And so I asked him what would he think if I got pregnant, and he said, I'd have a baby with you, girl.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Well, I never felt, and that's how I knew, that what we had was so special. I never really felt that way. I mean, sometimes when you're younger, if you're in your 20s and you're dating someone, even if it's a long-term relationship, that long-term relationship may expose things that in the relationship that tell you, I don't know. That's why you date around and you try to figure things out. So even serious relationships, aren't necessarily forever. If you reach that point where you're like, hey, this person's a great friend and I love being with them, and it's all fun and games and it's all bong rips and jokes, but ultimately I can see ahead what problems are definitely going to arise if we have kids together. I just can't see it. So I never felt that way with you. I always knew that not only would you be a great mom, a lot of women are great moms, but I knew that you would be a great wife and mom, and you would be someone who I could actually believe in to make a go of this thing, right? Without fear of divorce or it not working out or something. I don't know.
I'm a very committed person, and
And
I'm
me
very
too.
serious when I'm committed. And so I just needed a permission for myself to also know that he was as committed into what I was wanting, but also for himself as well. Because I never wanted in the future for something to happen that he like throws it back in my face. You know, long term, you just never know what's gonna happen. That he gave in to something that I wanted, that he never wanted for himself, or whatever. So that's why I asked him verbatim, like, would you want to have a baby? And he gave me the okay, the go. So then my plotting started happening.
Ooh, how you gonna get the baby?
Yeah, well, it happened at my
You know how it's
grandparents' house on the 4th of July weekend.
Mhm.
We went up to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and
Yeah, that was cool, and it was also kind of memorable and special, you know.
Right.
So it's a good memory there. And then
we weren't married,
we weren't married,
so that
but
was
in our minds, I believe
We
that
were
knew.
committed.
Yeah,
we were committed, but
That
we
was
hadn't
sort of
had
the
the
formality.
official
Right.
certificate
That's
and
just
celebration
right.
and
That's a certificate and a party and all of that, which takes time to put together. But making a baby, you can do that lickety split. It's no problem.
Right.
So you were pregnant with our son,
Mm-hmm.
our first child, and then we had our wedding.
Hunter was 6 months old.
Beautiful wedding, really great. I'm not a big wedding guy. I sort of just let her do her thing, but also just
But he
knowing
was
that
very particular about our wedding song. Just like the baby names.
I think I think anyone who's ever named their kid, and maybe this is just us, but I think a lot of people do this. I think you know for sure what you can't roll with. So that's probably how particular I was about a song, because I probably just didn't want any. I don't know. I probably had a list of stuff I didn't want, but I was open to other things.
Yeah.
I can't even now. It doesn't even seem.
I know, this is
memorable
why
to
I
me. don't
retain
remember
this stuff. Right.
What song did I want?
You didn't want a song.
Right,
You
see, that's what I'm just
You
said.
shut down my songs.
Right.
Just like you shut down the names, but that's your job.
She doesn't know what restaurant she wants to eat at tonight.
Right.
She just knows what she doesn't want to eat. And
Right.
It's all the things you've mentioned so far. So I was playing that role, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, I don't recall having a special song that I felt
But you were
strongly about.
opinionated, and
Yeah,
I
I didn't
asked you,
want certain stuff.
and I
or,
wanted you
certain
to
stuff
be
sounded
happy.
lame to me.
Right. Right. So we ended up with "Marry Me" from Train. You were acceptable of that song. for our
Gotta say
wedding.
yes to something. Can't move forward with the wedding. Sure, that sounds great.
So our son was 6 months old. He wore a little tuxedo and was the cutest thing ever. But we had some trials and tribulations even leading up to the wedding, even having our son, because we weren't married. And then back then, it was before insurances looked at pregnancy like a pre-existing condition. And with working in a salon environment, I didn't have health care. And because I didn't have health care, there was a lot of pressure put on me to marry Ryan because I was pregnant to get on his health care. So once again, I'm thinking long term, and I'm saying if we ever get into a position where I have to look at our marriage and go back, I don't ever want there to be this wedge or this thing in our marriage that I felt like I was appeasing other people and did it faster than I wanted or we wanted because I needed to get on his health care.
Right. That's not I don't know. It's practical, but for reasons, but it's not very romantic. And is that something you want to build a foundation on. If you're building a foundation, do you want that to be part of it? It's like, well, I needed insurance at the time, so you know.
Right.
So
I was shamed a lot because I had to go on Medi-Cal. Is it Medi-Cal? Yeah. I had to go on Medi-Cal to get insurance for our son, and there was limitations with that as well. They limit how many ultrasounds you have. You have to pick a certain doctor within their, you know, list or whatever. And then because I wasn't submissive to marrying him to get on his health insurance, then I was told that I needed to get an abortion.
I don't really follow that logic. One thing leads to the other, but okay.
And I also said no. I'm also not doing that. So then that's when
that was sort of goes to your side of the family's almost, I mean, at least your immediate family's kind of whole reaction to the whole thing, really. It was, you know, I say, hey, I would like to marry this person, and you kind of just get like, fuck off, you know, as a response. So that goes right along hand in hand with the type of responses that I was getting in general. And I think some people in your family had hoped that things wouldn't work out and you could move on to like a better guy or something like that.
Still
that
happening, people.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. So moving on from that, I basically said, fuck you and fuck off. And Ryan and I will go over here and we'll live in our happy bubble over here and do what we think is right for our family that we're already starting here. So you were working, one of my clients gave you a job, or you interviewed, or some
I got a
connection.
lead. Yeah, I got a lead on a job through one of your clients, and it turned out to be something I was up my alley that I could do. And I was working there at the time, and we had our second child. We had our daughter.
Yes.
I
had health insurance at that point because we got married when Hunter was 6 months old. So we went through with the wedding. I had my grandfather walk me down the aisle because this person that we said fuck off to didn't want to be a part of our celebration. And so I then went to my grandfather and asked my grandfather if he would be the one to hand me off to Ryan at our wedding.
Yeah, that's not really a recoverable position to take. You can't say, well, I'm totally against the whole thing and you should have an abortion, but if you're going to do it anyway, I'm there for you. That doesn't really work that way. So, so we did our wedding with the people who did deserve to be there, which was cool. It was all my friends, all your people. It was great. I thought it was a super good wedding. Fantastic. After this,
we had Sienna.
We have our daughter, Sienna. And then when she was about almost 1, things just felt like they were becoming overwhelming in California. Anyone who lives in California knows what it's like to try and pay your electric bill to PG&E in the summer. It can be upwards of maybe $1,000 just for your electric bill, on top of your rent and whatever else that you have going on.
And we had to pay for daycare at this point. So we have
we're
two
making
kids.
2 car payments. It's a lot. We have everything going on, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And it was manageable, but just barely. And it sure seemed like kind of a struggle. So there were, I think, multiple reasons why we wanted to move. We wanted to move somewhere with a lower cost of living. I got a job opportunity that was like a $15,000 a year raise.
And he got this job opportunity. It's very interesting because like we met online, but then he also had a connection online because
I had friends online through a hobby or what have you, so I would see a friend of mine always posting pictures of him doing his thing, and it just looked so beautiful. And I thought, geez, dude, where do you live? That looks really nice. And he said, Ogden, Utah. And I said, wow, okay, well, that's interesting. What if I come out there and stay with you for like a weekend and just crash on your couch or whatever? And then meanwhile, I'll be kind of scoping out the area, seeing if it seems like it's something for us. I came out to Ogden, Utah. I scoped out the area. It seemed really nice. I liked what I saw for the most part. And it seemed like a great place to raise kids. Where we're from, in the neighborhoods, in the area around Sacramento, a lot of people work for the state. A lot of people don't have kids. It's just not the most, I don't know, family-friendly environment. I'm sure there's neighborhoods or what have you, but we were living in Rockland at the time, which was where we both grew up, and I think in the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, it still was that kind of family suburb kind of place.
They got too expensive.
It got very expensive. It got populated by a lot of people, retirees or childless couples from the Bay Area. It just sort of turned into a different thing. It became kind of a little bit of a different vibe. So,
and you have to sit back and analyze this stuff when you become a parent, and you're like,
there's no kids. There's no kids in the neighborhood.
Right.
I never see any kids riding a bike. Is this supposed to, what are my kids going to be like growing up around here where there's sort of like no childhood activity going on? There's sort of just no, I think a lot of people end up getting their kids into activities, but that's always like, you have to go someplace, you have to take them to a special thing, and it costs, costs some crazy amount.
We didn't have help. Even in California, we weren't getting help. And then when we were getting help, it was sold as, oh, I'm raising their kids for them. And I had to pull that out right away. And I was like, this is not it. So whatever we have to do to still stay a unit together and relocate, I'm down. And I just put my trust in him to give him permission to try to figure out what was next for us.
I think baby boomer grandparents are very hit or miss. If you got good baby boomer grandparents, beautiful, fantastic. You're lucky. I think some of them tend to be suboptimal, let's say. They have their own concerns, they have their own things that they want to pursue. They've lived a charmed life since the 1950s. Sort of all of America has been about them the whole time, and that sort of continues on. So that's what we were dealing with. What help we did have came with attachments and strings and kilt and just weird stuff like that. So moving out here to Utah was one of the best things we ever done. We moved out. I had my job. It was going well. You had to pretty much completely start over. You had a list of clients that you had worked, but you had to sort of just throw that in the toilet and start fresh.
I had been doing hair for 10 years at that point in California, and I had built myself up with this salon owner. I took a 2-year hiatus and had a studio, and then after having my son and the cost of the studio and everything that came with that, I was like, you know what? I really want to focus on being a mom right now. So I'm going to go back to a commission-based salon. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I went back to a commission-based salon.
It was a Sola studio, and that can be kind of pricey.
Right. So then I went back to the commission-based salon, but then I am who I am, and I build myself up, and my consistency, my work ethic, my reputation, all of that stuff, the owner couldn't help but notice. And then the manager was so kind that she would speak so nicely about me to the owner that she was basically telling the owner that he needed to do something more for me. And so he offered me to work in Granite Bay at the Salon and Spa.
Which is sort of a swanky suburb of Sacramento, sort of an upscale area by the lake.
Right, but it was a different clientele, and he needed to reassure me to let me know that it was different than his like corner store chain salon. And I worked there for about a year and would pump in the back and did the mom thing and juggled everything, but we were happy and we were content, but then we were struggling in this one area that we didn't feel like we should be struggling in, and it was literally just because of our location and where we were. So 10 years of doing hair in California, I let my clients know and gave them a 2-week notice, and that was difficult for them to handle because some of these clients followed me to each location because this was my 3rd location by this point. And so they watched me grow and be pregnant and all of this stuff, and would hear my stories, and I had clients that were Mormon in California, and I had no idea that they were Mormon. And they tried to warn me, and I didn't want to listen. They tried to say, like, Utah is a different world than California, and I hope you're ready. And I said, I can make friends with anybody. I'm not worried. Like, I love doing hair and I love being around women, and I'm not worried. I'm excited.
We heard a lot of negative things about how it was going to be, and honestly, I think 90% of what we heard never really came to fruition. I think it was sort of like, I don't know. Sometimes when you say you're going to move,
it's the outside world.
You say you're going to move
in.
somewhere else, and people take a negative approach to it no matter what it is. They're like, oh, I was not going to.
Well, they were losing me, right? So it was like.
No, other people too.
Yeah.
People in my life that I knew, they had comments to say about it too.
Oh, okay.
People were just negative on it, right? Oh, It's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. You're going to have to become a Mormon to fit in and all this stuff, and your kids are going to be terrorized and all this. But I don't think for the most part that was true. I think for the most part
we just didn't.
They're pretty chill.
I don't
really have any sort of problem with that group of people in general. They're always nice to me, so it wasn't like it's some sort of nightmare scenario where like we're hunted in the streets or anything like that.
Right.
We pretty much have always been allowed to do our thing and prosper here. So that's what we did at some point.
So we moved out here, and then you were working at your office job.
Yeah,
and
at some point you decided you wanted to get back into hair.
It was about 90 days of being here, and you can only clean a house so much, that I would just look at you and be like, what's next? And you were like, well, what about doing hair? What about going to a salon and finding a salon? And I had looked around. California, there's so many options. We're out here, you're especially since we're way in the suburbs here, the options were like in the city that I was kind of looking at, and then I was like, do I want to commute that much? And I was going kind of back and forth, and then I ended up working at Ulta for about 2 weeks, and then I saw that there was very little payout for how much work you were doing there because it's still commission based too. And I needed to know that I was covering my basis of working with childcare, and I wasn't able to make the childcare payment off of what I was making in the beginning at Ulta. And because I had 10 years under my belt, I already knew how to run a business myself. And so then I started looking at other salons that were booth rental, but that's terrifying to go to a brand new place, not know one person, and then say, I'm gonna go booth rental and I'm gonna pay my booth and cover my product and everything, and I'm gonna make this work. And I mean, I had to believe in myself, and I utilized our free tool called social media, and no one was doing this yet. And so I learned a lot in California that I carried over to Utah, and I started posting on all the yard sale sites as much as I could. And I was doing color corrections for $125. And what was walking through the door, I just sat with and I said, Utah needs help. They need help here. I don't know what is going on, but this hair is not great. And these women are thinking that they're gonna get this look, and they bring in this picture and then they leave, and it's nothing like the image. And the image is obtainable. They could have it, but because they hadn't learned the technique, they didn't know how to properly do the look. And so after being in the salon that I was in for about a year, someone had reached out to me because I made such an impact on social media and was now known in the area after a year, that there was an opportunity for me to take over her second location because she just wasn't able to like come up here and make the second location everything she wanted it to be, and da 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 da. And so I looked at Ryan and I said, let's go look at this place and let's see what we can do, because I want this to be an education hub for Utah, and I want to lead these young stylists to improve outside of beauty school and give them permission to be the business that they want to be for themselves.
I just looked at it as how many people, what is going to be the rent at this new place? What are you currently paying in rent? So what would you need to make up that difference to basically break even and still have a place to do hair? And it was not much. It was like 2 renters.
Yeah.
If you could get 2 people to rent a booth from you at this new location, you'd be no worse off than you were at your previous location.
Right.
So I said, I believe that you could get 2 renters, so let's do it. Let's see what we can do. So that became Blank Canvas Salon.
Yes.
We owned and operated Blank Canvas Salon for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
We went through COVID and everything.
Yeah, it was great. It was a big learning experience. I think
Huge learning experience for me.
Yeah. I ended up quitting my office job because it was getting to the point where the salon
Demanded
not that long of a time, we ended up having a lot more than just 2 renters.
Right.
It pretty much filled out.
Yes.
And then I was getting
at
calls.
one point we had 18 booth renters there.
I was getting to the point, it was getting to the point where I would have to take calls while I'm at work, and it's like, hey, our dryer just broke. So I'd have to go to RC Willey. I'd have to leave work early and go to RC Willey and get a new dryer and then go and install it and do all of this. So there was ever increasing responsibilities that had to do with owning this salon. And it was also to the point where the salon itself, just the salon booth rent, was making enough money that it was equivalent to what I was making at my tech support job. So
we also have children still during all of this.
And you also have, you're behind the chair for your clients, and you were also traveling a lot for education.
Right. So then after we filled the booths, because I'm who I am, I'm like, what's next? And We hosted a big education event at the salon, and I met Amanda Harsh, and I saw what she was all about and how she was leading education for a brand. And I wanted to be a part of that, and they welcomed me in. And then I got a lot of opportunities to educate with that brand. And so it was pulling me not only outside of the house, but it was pulling me outside of the salon. And so the demands became more for Ryan during that time too, of also having to be the call man for anything that happened while I was out of town too.
Right, and while you're out of town, again, we don't have any help. We don't have grandma's not coming to watch the kids for us or do anything, so it's on me. So basically, I became a stay-at-home dad plus a salon manager. Was my job.
Yes.
For those 7 years. So, yeah, it enabled you to do everything that you possibly could do. I felt like your star in the hair industry was really rising at that point. Mm-hmm. So why not? How about if I step back? I've never felt passionate about my job. That's not a word I would ever use to describe tech support. If you've ever done it, it's fine. It's all right. It's whatever, right? I think a lot of people who work in a job have that, or work in an office have that kind of mentality towards their job where it's like, it's fine, I can do this, but it's not like something I feel passionate about. So I couldn't relate, but I was very inspired or impressed by the fact that she actually had those feelings towards her job and could pursue it on that level. Mm-hmm. So we kind of came to the agreement, why don't I step back from having a job? Why don't we put everything into the salon and your career? Let's just see how far you can take it. So what can you do if you didn't have to worry about anything else, really? Right? I'm going to handle everything else.
I got to fly free and go.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
And you did. You went. Yeah. You went all over.
I did. I went all over.
You went to Australia, you went to all sorts of places in your hair education journey.
Yes.
You performed on stage for a lot of great shows and things, so you were really doing it.
Yes. I was having a blast.
Yeah, it was great. Good times there.
Mm-hmm. And then it came to a point where after COVID and being a small business and having to deal with that, we also invested a lot in the business. We fully remodeled the business. It looked completely different than when we first got it. This business had also been a salon and many different salons. I think it had been open for 11 years previously before we even took it over. So at this point, this building is now 18 years old by the time we walked away from it. And I think it's just normal that people just come and go. And I was used to, groups of people kind of coming and going and starting their own. Look, I don't gatekeep anything. I've never been a gatekeeper. I post all my formulas. I post everything that I do. I'm here of aid. What salon owner would be competing against their own booth renters is mind-blowing to me. But I never wanted to have that mentality, and I always wanted to be accessible and help anyone that would come to me and ask me for help, because there's a lot of people within the same building, and I need to spread my love out between all of the people that were in the building, and then also on the internet and in Florida and Texas and Oregon and Washington and Arizona, everywhere. And I'm obsessed. I love it. And it came to a point after COVID, we didn't charge anyone booth rent. I didn't think it was appropriate to do that, because I wanted them to know that their health and safety mattered more than money did to us.
We still had to pay our rent
Right.
to the building, to the property manager,
All of our bills still existed.
which was wild to me. I remember that time when they shut down work, and I just remember thinking, what do you want me to do? How can I pay you if I can't work in the space to earn the money to pay you? It's absurd to ask me to pay you rent for a month where the building was shut down by the government. How does that work?
I remember we called the owner, the landlord of the building, and he had no idea that the city had even shut down salons. That's how detached he was, even from his own properties. And so I just looked at Ryan and I was like, well, we have to keep this because this is all we have. Like, we built this.
Right, but like you said, it seemed wrong to charge rent when no work could possibly be performed. So no income can be made, but you still have to pay for this stuff. It's like, well, that's a violation of the basic agreement that we entered into here. And I get that no one really saw this coming. And this has never happened before in the history of America. But we're going to have to figure something else out. It's going to have to be kicked up the chain to, I don't know, the banks, and they're going to have to be told, you're not getting your money because my people didn't give me the money because they weren't able to work to earn the money. And you know how all of that went. Mm-hmm. So we didn't really think it was appropriate to charge our booth renters rent for weeks or months that they were literally unable to generate any sort of revenue whatsoever. Where does this money come from? We all just have fat savings account? No. So it was a struggle.
We're hairstylists, okay?
Yeah, we're small business owners, okay? Yeah. We just got money laying around. I can only pay you if we can earn the money. So we got through that. Luckily, somehow we made it. I think, a stimulus check just went towards all of that. We just basically paid the stimulus check, or however we got through it.
Well, we had a savings from my grandparents passing away. Yeah. And so that's like, thank you, Grandma and Grandpa, because really that's what kept the salon going, is mm-hmm. that, and it wasn't a large sum of money that I got.
No, it wasn't like
it was like 2 months rent, but it was able to keep us afloat during that time. So I'm grateful for that. And then, like I said, people would come and go, and it was done respectfully. No one was also in a contract. I had a policy for my booth renters, basically a standard to abide by, to keep a professional image. But no one was in a contract. I didn't want anyone to work at the salon that no longer wanted to work at the salon. I just asked that they would be so kind to give us a 2-week notice. So that way we can try to fill the booth with a replacement, and give me 2 weeks to interview people and try to get, somebody in there. I also did the interview process. I would have them come in and demo. And that was not only for me to see them work, it was also for them to get the feel of if they would work well in the environment, if they liked our environment. We were very different than the normal Utah way, because I'm from California. So I wanted to bring that California vibe and feel to this Utah world. And I just wanted to make sure that people didn't want to come in and try to like control that, or then not know how to handle it if their clients didn't like it or anything like that. So it was kind of like, okay, let me see you and you see me, and then we see if we're going to like work well together.
I auditioned for a job once like that. You know that? They sort of like did the same type of thing.
No, what was that?
It was when I lived in Missoula, Montana, when I was about 18 years old, and it was a store at the mall. I think it was called either Mr. Rags or Dr. J's. I can't remember. I want to say Mr. Rags, but it was like a low budget Zoomies. Essentially,
that's
right?
cool.
They just had like skateboard shoes.
So like an
baggy pants.
indie, like an indie.
Yeah, it was like
okay.
a cool clothing store, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I had to come in there one day and act like I'm, working. Like I had to fold up T-shirts,
Yeah.
and like, hey, you finding everything okay?
Yeah.
And then they didn't
You
offer
don't-
me the position, but I did. They were not feeling it.
Yeah, well, you just, to me, that it's a partnership type of thing, and they know if it's gonna work, or if it's gonna work or not, right?
It was fine. I probably, honestly, when I was 18 and I lived in Missoula, my life was so hectic, I probably wouldn't have been able to
handle it.
show up after the initial week. So it's probably
They probably knew that. That's
probably
why
the
you were
correct
there.
call. Yeah, they're like, this guy, man, his life's hanging by a thread at this place. So I don't know.
This is before we're together.
Oh, this was a long time ago.
So anyway, so people would come and go, and groups would come and go, and it was always kind of, I wouldn't say easy to refill the position, because you're always starting from the ground and then having to build up with each person, right? And I was being pulled in a lot of different directions when it came to the point that I was sitting and thinking about what was next. I mean, it's kind of like when you start to you're married, and then people put pressure on you if you're gonna have children, like right after you're married, right? And then after you have one baby, then they're asking if you're gonna have another one. And you're just like, well, who the hell is gonna pay for this? Who's gonna help? People just kind of throw things out there. And so I was being hit with, are you gonna open a second location? The local beauty school had closed down. People were asking if I was gonna take over the beauty school. And I was just like, what do these people think?
I think that's common. I think any small business owner can kind of relate in terms of, you can have a really great relationship with the people that you work with, but ultimately they only have sort of ideas about what it's like to be the owners of the business. They might have misconceptions, or they might have ideas that aren't correct, or they may think that you have more resources than you really have. They may want things like remodeling projects that are unrealistic. You have to say, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, but I hope you enjoy being here. We try to make a good environment for you to do your clients, but there's certain things that are outside of our limits or our reach. We're not going to be able to do this or do that, or open up a second location right now, or really expand at all, because again, what was this, a year or two post-COVID? So we're just still almost trying to recover from what
Right.
happened to us during 2020. And we were sort of in like a holding pattern of like, let's just keep what we've got going here. But
And then I was getting other opportunities outside of the salon that was pulling me outside of the salon, and I was loving the opportunities that I was getting outside of the salon. And then it's like, if you've seen Inside Out 2, there's different islands, right? And so like my career island outside of the salon is so exciting and it's so fun, and then there's the salon island that is still exciting and it's still fun. But when you're in this traveling educator island, the salon island gets a little neglected. But I have Ryan, to take care of that. So I was pulling him out of the house more to handle that while I was over here. And then I also have a family island over here. So then I was getting more demands from the salon island because they saw me in this traveling outside the salon island over here. And then I had to then look at my family island, and my family island wasn't looking the way that I wanted it to look. It was starting to not look great because I have a daughter. And so I had to really sit back and see which thing I was willing to step back from so then I could step up in my family island. And I also decided that I can be me and reach more people digitally and then be able to travel. I love traveling and go where I'm needed and where I'm asked and still get that same fulfillment and still work behind the chair without having to nurture and maintain and remodel this business island. So then I looked at Ryan, and it took 2 years. We were going back for 2 years, back and forth for 2 years.
That's a big decision. I mean, if you own your own business, it's a total way of life change to contemplate not owning that business anymore, or walking away from that business, or selling the business. What's that going to do to our finances? Can we afford to walk away? These are all questions that it took us, a couple of years to really sort out and make the decision on. It wasn't a, rush judgment or jump the gun on anything. We considered it quite a bit.
And I finally verbalized it out loud, and I said to Ryan, I'm done. And then it was almost like instantly I said that, and then I received a message from a local hairstylist whose husband also is a barber, and she asked me if I knew of any salons in the area that were looking to sell. And I looked at Ryan and I said,
yeah, it was great. It was
if
like
this
divine
ain't
timing.
the universe
There it is.
telling us what we
Fabulous.
need to do, this I have to listen. I have to listen to this.
Yeah, it was really good timing. It was cool that everything was able to work out and it became beneficial to everyone. They were in a position where they wanted a second location, so they got the second location they wanted, and you were able to continue on your islands of priority.
Right. So then I went to Studio Life, and I actually went back to Sola, but now it was in Utah. And I only had one booth renter ask me if she could come with me. I can't read anybody's minds. I don't know what you want. You're an independent contractor. You're your own booth renter. You're your own business. I gave everybody, I think it was a 6-week notice when we finally decided to close. And I had one booth renter ask me if she could join my next step. So then I had to go back to the drawing board, and I had to see where studios were and which studio would work best. My salon was 2,000 square feet that I was working in for 7 years. And then I was looking at studios that were 200 square feet.
For the same price, if not more.
Right. So
that's a pretty stark indication of the world pre-COVID and then the world post-COVID.
Right.
Oh, I see.
So they had this really nice studio that had open doors in the front. It reminded me of California, and it was a larger, they actually called it a micro salon instead of a suite. And I had met with the owner, and we had gone back and forth. I had talked to him about maybe doing an influencer thing, because I am an influencer, and seeing if we could work together and I could get more of his studios filled, and if we, could benefit each other. And I saw something promising with that location, and then I brought the booth renter over to also get her approval, and then I got to work and I built out that whole studio, and I called it Jessica Power Sanctuary, and I worked there for a whole year, and I learned a lot from that experience as well. I think that could be a different podcast though, of that whole experience. But then the contract ended there, and it was about 2 weeks before my contract ended. Kirsten reached out to me, and
who is one of the people from
Blank Canvas. She was a booth renter at Blank Canvas, and she had left, I think, 2 years before we had closed. And I've supported her, and we've supported each other ever since. And she reached out to me, and she's like, I know your lease is up soon. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? I'm in this studio by myself. Like, would you want to come over here? And I said, how did you know? How'd you know?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good fit, I think, and that's where you are right now. That's the room we're recording in right now. This is your pink room.
Right. So there was a transition period with that, because she was like the building down from here in a small studio space, and she allowed me to kind of like do a pop-up shop, if you will, in her little studio while we did the transition over here, and got to paint and create this space in here. And so we're actually coming up on a year now here. And then everything slowed way down. The economy is what it is, and health and beauty has been put kind of on the back burner. And what happens with that is, longer appointments are pushed out longer. People aren't wanting to do as much stuff, which is just normal. You just have to ride the wave. I mean, I've been doing hair now for 20 years. So I remember back in California when the recession happened in 2008. And you just have to kind of ride it, and figure it out. And so, but that gave us more free time. And my husband knows me very well, and I'm a very active person, and I'm a very creative person, an expressive person. And now I'm also having to deal with wanting to get sober and everything that comes with that, and sitting with that. So we got to work a way that we know how to as entrepreneurs, and started diving into giving ourselves permission of what the next step is for our life, because we want our life to be integrated, where I don't feel like I'm clocking in and out of my life every day. I don't want to operate that way. I just want to be passionate about everything that I'm doing. And so then we started diving into me being a model, and Ryan being the photographer, and him filling his dreams of that.
Yeah, maybe we're up over an hour, so maybe we'll pause it and we'll cut this episode and call it good, and then we'll do another one
Yeah.
where we can kind of cover kind of maybe the ins and outs of our marriage itself and what all is involved there. So that's kind of the history of how we ended up where we are right now in Ogden, Utah, and in the industry. And I don't know, I hope you've enjoyed listening to it so far.
Stay tuned for the second one because that's where it gets real juicy.